Hello, my name is David Brower, and this is my story. From a young age, I had problems, like a lot of other children, except my problem was explosive anger and behavioral issues. When I was probably about 7 or 8, I was already on medication. I asked my babysitter at the time, Julie, what would happen if I took too many pills? And she said that I'd probably die. So, before I had asked her that, I'd already taken, I don't know how many pills. I do remember I took more than I was supposed to. Nothing happened. I didn't get sick. I didn't have to go to the hospital. Anything like that. Things got worse. People who deal with mental disabilities and mental health issues, auditory or visual hallucinations can relate to what I'm going to say. Pardon me. There were many times when I was a child that I just wanted to die. Sorry, that's my cat. That's Brownie. Hi, Brownie. Brownie. Sorry about that. She's my baby. One of my babies. So anyways, there'd be times where it felt like I was leaving my body. Then I'd go up to the ceiling, back down, and then back to my bed in a triangular fashion. Okay. That happened numerous times. But at the time, I didn't know it had a name. Sleep paralysis. That's another issue, another topic for another time. Anyways, at a young age, there was an older neighbor kid. And it's something I really don't like to bring up too much because it's very painful. But he sexually molested me. He was old enough to know better. I was still too young to know what was going on. I thought maybe it was normal. When I'd sleep over, he would molest me when I was sleeping. He had his dog, pardon my graphicness. It's sick. He was a sick individual who would let his dog chew on my penis when I was asleep. And then he would think it was funny, and he'd tell me in the morning when I woke up. So I thought, oh, it's a joke. Ha ha ha, funny. And I couldn't find out when I looked down at my penis. Sure enough, there are bite marks. So that's kind of one of my first sexual experiences, I guess. And then you can imagine what that would do to a child, especially years down the road, finally understanding what really happened. I know there are other survivors out there who dealt with sexual molestation, as a child by either an adult or an older child that you trust. So I know I'm not the only one out there. And that being said, it kind of added to my mental well-being, having experienced that numerous times, and already being on medication, at 8, 9 years old. Well, maybe between 7 or 8. Which leads me to a previous point that I should have brought up first. When I was a child, I don't remember how old, my mother told me, recently, a few months ago, that I had really bad ear infections when I was a kid. So I was always at the hospital. And they put tubes in my ears and they got infected. And I lost my ability to speak, ability to talk. So my mother had to teach me how to talk again, which I'd never remembered, I guess, because I was so young, but somewhere deep rooted in my subconscious, it's down there. But, so I started off kind of fucked up, and then jumped forward back to where I was, and with this guy, I was the joke of the crowd. I was fat, I was a nerd, I was a geek, I was a loser. Not to say that I'm not now, but in those days, I was their punching bag. I was their punchline, I was their joke. So they're always beating up on me and making fun of me, and I took it because I was desperate for friendship. But, they abused me. They treated me like a punching bag, whatever you would call it. Yeah, it was just a joke. Just a joke. I was institutionalized when I was about maybe 8, 9, or 10, or somewhere thereabouts. And I can't recall most of it. Like, honestly, I think it was so traumatic for me at that age that I blocked a lot of it out and just buried it deep. But a lot of my memories I have, I don't know if they actually happened or if my mind concocted it to fill in some blank spaces that actually happened, or my subconscious trying to fool my mind into believing that it was just a dream when it actually happened. All I know is it came out worse than it went in. So to recap, tubes in my ear infections constantly, visits to the doctors constantly, tubes in my ears that became infected, some other stuff that happened that I'm not aware of, lost my ability to talk. My mother had to teach me how to speak again. Thoughts of suicide and not wanting to live at age maybe started at 6 or 7. I just didn't want to live anymore. Life was hell for me already. Numerous psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists at a very young age. Institutionalization at a very young age. Most memories I can't recall or tell if they were true or, fictional. Molested by an older neighborhood kid who let his dog chew on my penis. Neighborhood kids beating me up, treating me like their punching bag, always making fun of me, always tricking me. I'm sure there's more there, but I'm gonna leave it at that for this entry. But I will be back to discuss further and maybe even dive back to previous thoughts. Again, my name is David Brower. This is the beginning of my story.